And welcome. My name is Ryan Belmore. I am the owner of What's Up Noop. And joining me today for this conversation is Mr. Frank Prosnitz, news editor for What's Up Noop. And hey, good afternoon, Frank.
How you doing, Ryan?
I think you need to. There you are. You got a little bit of a delay, but you are there. You are live.
I
And
think so.
how are all things today?
Yeah, things are going okay, and
Do you think so?
I think so. Well, hopefully we're going to be joined by Shirley King in a couple of minutes. I don't know if she's dialed in yet, but she's supposed to be joining us. She is the oldest living daughter of BB King. BB King
Okay.
had BB King had 15 children, and we'll let Shirley explain that to you and about her brothers and sisters. But she's the oldest living daughter. She's also just released an album last Friday, and it's called Shirley King Blues for a King. Much of what she's done has been a tribute to her father. She's 70 years old now, and our career is moving along, and so uh, then some great names on that album. Joe Louis Walker, who was a Hall of Fame blues guitarist, who actually we're gonna interview tomorrow morning. We also have Duke Robillard is on that album, of course, from
Oh,
Rhode
cool.
Island. So lots of great names that are on the album, and Shirley King too, if she joins us at some point or another here. But
Yeah, absolutely. And Duke, you can catch every now and then here in the Newport area. And let's see here. I believe we do have Shirley joining us. So I'm going to bring Shirley up here and let you guys get to your discussion.
Okay, I'm messed all up because I didn't expect to be on camera here and I'm out shopping around.
all right,
Okay, so I have to talk with a mask though.
that's okay. Shirley, how are you?
I'm blessed. I'm blessed. How are you?
I'm doing well, Shirley. So you are the oldest living daughter of BB King, correct?
That is right.
And let's get right to your album a little bit. You just released an album last Friday. It's called Shirley King Blues for a King. Tell us about the album. Tell us what some of what you'd like people to take away from that album.
Well, I hope people don't look at me and take away that I'm a robber or nothing. I'm not. I'm not a robber. I'm just masked up. But actually, I want people to take away that BB King's daughter is finally standing on her own two legs. All my entire 30 years of singing, I've been BB King's daughter. What's her name? So now I'm finally able to stand on my own 2 feet and be Shirley King, BB King's daughter. So what this album is doing for me is helping me claim my own fame instead of living in my daddy's shadow. And I'm so happy about that. And
That's
the
a
songs are so unique. So people gonna be wanting to buy this because they can't imagine Shirley King singing Gallipold and the songs that I'm singing, which is good. Then I'm doing all men songs, a woman way. That's good. And then the fact that I'm up on a record label, because blues people don't get a chance to do too many record label things. And so I feel honored that Cleopatra Record decided to give me this chance.
This is your third album, correct?
It is my third, but it is the only one that brought me to the forefront. The rest of the CDs are on shelf or either they in closets.
Um, Tell me about the influence that BB had on you, and a little bit about your upbringing with BB. I presume he wasn't a stay-at-home dad.
No, he wasn't. Can you understand me? Can you
I
understand
can,
me?
we can, yes,
Okay.
yeah.
I'm
We're
trying to.
also getting the money bag to give you when you come up to the teller window.
Okay. Okay. Because I don't have no gun and nothing. So if y'all want to give me the money, that's fine. But I'm not a crook. I'm just a mass woman today.
There you
But
go.
doing this album have brought me to a place in my life where I never thought I would be. First of all, this album have more of a rock, the songs, the musicians, everything is pointing in a different level for me, and it's not just blues. and I'm loving that. And then the fact that being BB King's daughter, he got bigger when he started doing crossovers with people like Jeff Beck, Eric Clapton, and Stevie Ray. So I feel like this is happening to me as it did to my dad. You know, blues is a good music. It's something everybody like, but it's not a high end paying music. So when you do shows as a blues artist, you in clubs, small clubs, or big blues festivals, but you're still in that money bracket in the lower level. With this, I can see myself maybe doing a show with Elton Bishop, somebody that can have a 2 or 3 thousand people crowd compared
Yeah.
to 150 people room. So I think that I'm on my way, and if this thing ever kind of lighten up and we can go on tour. Me and Joe been talking a lot, and he's quite of a tour. He does nothing hardly but touring. And so we're talking now about getting together because he showed me in the beginning he was my father's real friend. He's the only person that called me when my dad passed and
And so
asked
you're
me
talking, when you
how.
say Joe, you're talking about Joe Louis Walker.
Yes,
Yeah.
he
Yeah.
called me and asked me how was I doing, and he tried to lock me in with his manager, and this was way before this deal was made. So I do feel like God brought me back to the same person that was concerned about me when my daddy passed. That didn't happen from most of my so-called daddy friends.
And you've got
Nobody,
Joe. You've got
yes,
Joe on two songs on your album. You've got him on All of My Lovin', and you've got him on Hoodoo
Hoodoo
Man.
Man, yeah.
Yeah,
And
and
I'm really
Joe.
happy to have him on Hoodoo Man because Hoodoo Man is a blues song, and I got Joe and Junior Well. Now, how it couldn't get too much better than that.
So tell me about your upbringing with BB. Um, how often would you see him, and how much of an influence was he in your younger years?
He was the whole reason I'm probably singing the blues, but he's not the only reason because I saw Etta James and I saw a woman singing the blues, and it let me know, oh, there are women in this, so you can't sing the blues like your daddy. But at first, my daddy was my influence because he was the only one basically I was seeing. I didn't see him regular, but he had his sister to make sure that when he was somewhere close enough to bring me to see him. My dad tried to be a good daddy, even though he had to tour and work a lot. He tried. He tried to make both things work. So he would have me to come around his shows so he could see me and say hi and bye. That's all he had time to do, to say hi and bye.
You were one of 15 children.
I was one of 15 kids, but I was the only one. Well, a second sister came in later, but I was first. I thought I was the only child because I was the only one my father had around, and I was raised by his father and stepmother. So I was raised with my cousins. I didn't know I had any other brothers and sisters. And the more famous my father got, the more brothers and sisters I had. So by the time I was 13 or 14, I started learning about brothers and sisters. And, before my dad left this earth, he left me with 11 because four died before he passed. Four of his kids died before he did.
Tell me how it felt as a young child, seeing your dad up on stage, being such a big performer, a big name in entertainment. What did that make you feel as a child about him and about who you were?
As a child, I didn't, my dad was my dad. I didn't see him being famous. As a child, I was excited about seeing Jane Brown, Jackson Wilson, and Sam Cooke because back in the day, a blues artist wasn't famous to us kids, and by that being my daddy, I just saw him as my daddy. But then after I kept growing older and older, I think by the time I was 13 or 14, that's when I realized who my father was. As a child, I didn't know he was famous. But as I got older and everybody was talking about him, and he wasn't as famous as he was when he left this earth, but he was on his way. And I would go to school And the kids knew B.B. King was my father, but they would mess with me and say, that's not your daddy, because if it was your daddy, you wouldn't be living here and blah, blah, blah. So that's when I started recognizing how famous he was because of people thinking where I supposed to live, how I supposed to dress and all that. And after I came to Chicago, that's when I really started appreciating who my father was, when I moved to Chicago.
So the blues has an incredible history that goes back to the Mississippi Delta blues, with some unbelievable people who came out of there, and a real commitment to the music and telling a real story, and it evolved over the years. Where did your dad come in on that? Where did B.B. King come in that evolution of the blues?
Actually, I believe, because now that I've been singing the blues, I do a lot of blues in the school for kids. So that requires me to learn as much as I can. And when I read after Robert Johnson and my dad's cousin, Booker White, and all of them, my dad came in right on the tail end of that, because he came in more of being the blues in an up-tempo way with the horns and all that stuff, where Robert Johnson and all, was more traditional contemporary blues. So I would say that my father they didn't call him just blues like they call it in Chicago, because he always came with a set of horns. He always had a rhythm section. So in the South, those kind of blues singers were known as rhythm and blues artists. They wasn't called just blues artists. And as he kept on touring, because really my father started touring in 1951. I mean, he was full-fledged out here playing something everywhere. Maybe not so much as all over the world, but he was very famous in Arkansas, Tennessee. I don't know if he did too much in Mississippi, but he was working those places famous without being big famous. And when he met Sid Seinberg, I think it was around when he was about 6 to 8 years old, he got with somebody that had top-notch connection. And so he had him where he was working crossover, which brought him to the forefront. A lot of his blues friends didn't like the fact that my daddy was being called a blues, because they didn't see him that way. Our music got divided up. When I was growing up, I heard everything on one radio station. You could hear country, you could hear gospel, you could hear blues, you could hear soul music. But then as the years went on, the music started being divided up in genres. And my father kind of like fell upon at least two of them. He fell upon the soul blues, he fell upon the rhythm and blues, and he fell upon the urban. I forgot the other part of it, but it's more where when you go and hear people like Lil Milton, Johnny Taylor, Bobby Bland, that's where my father was then. When he came to New York and started working with Sid Seinberg, he became more of a crossover act. I mean, he became blues, but the rock people liked him so well, so they brought him into the venue where his music was done the same way. But when the people like Eric Clapton, Jeff Beck, Stevie Ray, when all these people started wanting to do something with B.B. King, it made his music go to more of the younger white crowd that had never heard of B.B. King.
And Shirley, I'm sitting here in Newport, Rhode Island, and your dad played Newport Folk Festival, Newport Jazz Festival many times. I'm looking at a set list from 1968, 1969, 1989. He played in this area quite often, the Newport Yachting Center down on the waterfront of Newport Harbor. He toured and came up this way several times here to Rhode Island.
Actually, I'm trying, because I played up in that area too, on some festivals and stuff. But I'm trying to remember, is that where the presidents and people have homes and things at? I'm trying to think.
Yeah, that's the place. That's where the big.
In there. I played up in there. I'm telling you, I have followed my dad in places later on because they couldn't afford to get B.B. King, and they would hire me so they can say BB King daughter. I played in Newport. When you said that, I was like, wait a minute, I played there. Yeah, I played up in Newport. I played a lot of the East Coast places. Called myself trying to do a one nighter like my dad, and it was terrible. It was horrible. I learned that what my dad is doing is not easy. I, I,
No,
I it wasn't easy. I tried to do it, and within 10 days, I was standing out in the middle of Washington D.C. just crying.
Shirley, tell me a little bit about BB King that most people don't know. Tell me about the real BB King um, beyond the stage. What was he like, and how was he uh, just in a normal day? How was he when he was with you? What are the things that you take away as most cherished in your memories of your dad?
I have many little unknown BB King stories from Shirley King's point of view. This would not be enough time to talk about all the little stories like that, but I have a few that sometimes I sit down and I laugh because my father wasn't a normal father. I mean, okay, I'll use a great example. My dad, when he would come see me, by him being famous, he still would have, people see him coming over our house and they be coming over for autograph. So he could never stop being BB King. He never got a chance to just be a regular guy. That never happened. But occasionally he would find a way to steal away. He would find a way when he came to see his family to try to let people know, well, now I'm visiting my family. I love you guys, but I really need to give this time to my family because he was very attached to his father. And he really enjoyed making his father happy. And his father was taking care of me and letting me live with them. So he always tried to show my father appreciation. But with me, he was always sad because he said I made him feel bad because I always said he didn't spend no time with me, and he didn't. But he would try sometime to just try to be an ordinary daddy, but it didn't work for him. So one time he thought he would make me very happy by taking me to a movie, which we had to go to a drive-in because BB King wouldn't have got a break up in a movie. So he took me and one of my cousins to a drive-in, and one of my dad's sister's girlfriend lived across the hall. My dad always loved pretty women. He always loved women. So he took us to the drive-in, called himself trying to talk to the young lady he had with him, and called himself being a daddy for me. He wasn't in that theater. He wasn't in that drive-in over 25 minutes before he went to sleep. He sit there in the car and started snoring. First he started snoring. We looking at him like, oh no. Then after a while he got comfortable. He pulled off his shoes and got comfortable. We went haywire up in there. We was like, woo! We could, because my daddy was so used to being on the road. He was used to the road and trying to be a normal person. He just didn't fit in. I mean, he would try. He would try to be the kind of father that I supposed to understand. I didn't understand then, but I understand now because he would allow me still when I got older and started singing the blues. He would allow me to go out there on the road so I could see how things were done, so I could get a feel on how I'm supposed to be and what I'm supposed to do. So these were daddyly things he did, but BB King was never a normal person because he started being a star when he was about 17 years old. And from 17 all the way until he left this earth in 2015, he was never a normal person. He was famous in his 20s. He was famous already. He had a touring bus with about 15 people working for him. So my daddy never was a kind of father that I could tell you a father home story. It wouldn't be a home story. It would be something that have happened over the years. And I have a lot of those. And I'm saving those for my book.
Shirley, what brought your dad to music?
Beg your pardon?
What brought your dad to music? How did he get interested in it, and when did he start playing?
Well, actually, my dad was always in the music because people on his mother's side were all religious. And of course, religious people kept their kids in church. My dad wasn't supposed to be no blues singer. His mom wanted him to be a preacher or a musician for the church. And he, stayed around the church, so he was always exposed to music. And he tells that story really well in his book, Blues All Around Me. He talked about how, he would go to the church and watch the preacher, and one of the ministers there played a guitar. Might have been his cousin, but he played the guitar, and he said he'd be watching that guitar, and then when it was time for them to go and eat dinner, because most churches that you went to, they would do the service, and then somebody get together and have food, and everybody eat, right? And my daddy said when it was time for him to eat, instead of eating, he would wait till the preacher laid the guitar down, and he'll sneak and try to get the guitar and try to play it. So my dad has always been inching in on the music. He didn't start when he got older. He was, as a little kid, I don't know how much you know about him, but his mom died when he was 9 years old. And then his grandmother passed maybe about 2 or 3 years later. So my dad pretty much raised himself. So everything in the world to him meant music. Even the birds in the yard, chit chit chit, that was music to him. And he said his first guitar was built with a stick and a wire because he couldn't afford to buy a guitar. So he made a guitar out of a stick and put some wires on it. And when he was in church, they let him form the gospel group. He had a gospel group. Him and his cousin and two of their friends. That was real popular at the time. Back in the 40s and everything, gospel quartets were really, really big then. And my dad had one. He started out singing gospel. But he said the reason he changed from singing gospel because when he would, play music and sing gospel, people would pat him on the head and tell him the Lord was going to bless him. But when he would go on the street corner and play blues, people would actually pat him on the head and give him a few dollars. He said that helped him decide what kind of music he was going to play.
That makes sense.
Yeah. It made sense. It made so much sense. It made sense to me, too, because when I was about 3 and 4 years old, and every time I went somewhere, people, oh, that's little B.B. King's daughter. Sing us a song. And I look at him and I go, I ain't ashamed. I've never been ashamed. You never had to ask me twice. But what you did have to do is you had to pay me before I sing. I held my hand out for some money. Okay, when you pay me, you're going to get a song. Then when they paid me and they got me to singing, I put on a show. I wouldn't just sing. I would put on a show. So I guess I'm a lot like my dad because what brought me to the blues is that when I went to clubs and saw blues people, they didn't even have to be famous and was still working. And in Chicago, that's the music there. You're surrounded by what makes Chicago what it is. So that's what kind of pulled me to the blues because I started working, and then within a year of working, I started touring all kind of places, doing the blues, and didn't even have a CD out.
Shirley, I want to in a minute. I want to get into your career a little bit, but I want to ask you this first. In what would you ask people? The one thing that you want them to remember B.B. King for?
His love, his how he cared about people being happy. My dad, I used to tell people the same thing though. When I'm doing a show, if I have to dance on top of a table to make sure that you are happy and you enjoy my show, I would do it. My dad cared very much about people walking away and leaving and loving him. He always wanted to make sure. That's why when he was on stage, he would always tell people, I would love to come back if you would like me to. He wanted to please people, and his whole lifetime, he spent that time, like if he was walking out of a stage door and somebody could get to him, he would stop and sign an autograph, where most stars, if they ain't supposed to be doing an autograph, they not going to do it. Not my dad. He would come into a hotel when he done got through working and sit 2 and 3 hours signing autographs and talk to people. He'll come in the hotel and people be waiting on him there. He'll start back over again. So I think my father wanted the world to know how much it wasn't just them loving B.B. King. It was how much B.B. King loved his fans. Total respect for him. We would come to see him, and he would tell us, now, y'all can go on in the room and wait on me. I'll be up there later, but I got to deal with my fans. That was letting us know we didn't come first. We came second. Those people that paid the cost for him to be the boss came first. So I think he really loved his fans. I don't think he liked them just because they came to see B.B. King. I think he liked them because people wanted to act like he was part of their family. They wanted to have this closeness to him, and he always enjoyed that because I think he had a need to be loved from losing his mother so young. He claimed that's why he liked women so much, because he, lost his mom. But my dad sure enough loved women. Oh my God. He was, he didn't mistreat none of them neither. They followed him. They met him when he was young, and they kept following him until they was in walkers and wheelchairs just like he was.
You mentioned that in your career, Etta James was a big influence. And one of the songs on your album is a great song by Etta James. It's "At Last." Tell me about Etta James and what she meant to you, and why she was such a great influence on you.
Well, I met Etta James. I mean, my father was always he wasn't on the show with blues people. He was always on the show with soul and R&B people. So at first it was just men kept being on the show. And one of the times I went to see my dad, I was about 13 years old. This particular time they had the men's on there, but Etta James was the only female on there. And that's the first time I saw a female singer, because it was always men's on the show. And I started thinking maybe this music is only for men to do. It ain't for women to do. But when I saw Etta James, the look, the way she sing "At Last" and the whole thing, it just brought me to a reality that I wanted to be like Etta James. This is what I want to do. That's when I decided. I liked it when my daddy was doing it, but I really made a decision when I saw Etta James. And the second CD that I did, my agent was so happy that I loved Etta James because she did too. She bought me every single CD that Etta James had ever did. I did "Tell Mama," which is a high up energy song, because I like singing fast stuff. I'm not a ballad singer. I like singing stuff that hype you up. I did "Tell Mama," but to do "At Last," I was really intimidated on doing that because I don't think nobody should sing Etta James "At Last" but Etta James. I don't care how good they sound. I don't want to hear nobody doing "At Last" but Etta James. And over the years, I got a chance to see her quite a bit because she was always, not always, but when B.B. King did the B.B. King Blues Festival, Etta James was one of the acts that would be on there. The part I hated about that, she wasn't a people person. So when you would see Etta James on the show, you would see her on the stage, and when she walked off that stage, you can't come up and say, could I have an autograph? Could I take a picture? So I grew up admiring somebody that I could never get next to when I grew up and got into business myself. But my son went on the road with my dad, and Etta James was on the show. And I don't know how my son worked his way into Etta James' life. But he went out there and she liked him a little bit. And he had her to call me on one of my birthdays. He had her to call me. And she got on the phone and started saying stuff that wasn't really true, but I didn't care. Because at least I can say I got a chance to talk to Etta James one time before she left this earth. But I didn't get a chance to really meet her like I did with Coco Taylor, Ruth Brown, and some of the other women. I just, I saw her, but that's as far as it went because she wasn't a people person.
But she was an incredible talent. I had the opportunity of seeing her, and what a voice she had.
The voice, and she was, she had a really smooth, sexy show. People said, well, we didn't hire Ella because she go to rubbing on herself and blah, blah. Hey, Etta James was show, okay? So when you hired Etta James, you wasn't coming to see just somebody sing. She had the older style You know, blues women had to perform in the early days, in the 40s and 50s. You couldn't be just a singer on stage. When people came to see you, you had to perform. And Etta came from that era. Plus, you know, she was around Broadway a little bit in New York. She had sung jazz. I mean, people, she was a phenomenal jazz singer. Then she could sing gospel. I mean, here's a woman that could sing anything and go down with the best of men song because she went to singing. She did Purple Rain by Prince. Her favorite singer I heard was Johnny Guitar Watson. Are you familiar with Johnny Guitar Watson?
I don't think so.
Okay, he's a soul blues artist, guitar player, and he is awesome. That was Etta James kind of idol, you know, and she would do those men songs because she could handle them because her voice could go anywhere. Her voice could go from straight up down in the alley blues all the way up to beautiful ballad jazz. And I have an album where she was singing jazz. I just cry sometimes because then you could hear her singing some country song. I mean, she sung all kind of music. And that was, you know, back in the day, that was phenomenal because you either was a blues singer, you was a soul singer, or you were a gospel singer. Etta James could sing all the music and put Etta James style to it. You knew it was Etta James, but now you like, oh my God, Etta's singing some jazz. Yep, she was good. She was excellent.
Well, Shirley, we should let you get back to your shopping, but I wanted to take just a minute or two to talk a little bit more about your album, Shirley King Blues for a King. If you were to describe it a little bit about what this album says, what the songs, what this collection of songs does, what would you say?
It is very unique for Shirley King. That's what I would say. And it's unique because Shirley King did not pick the song.
Oops, did we lose you, Shirley?
Can you still hear me?
I can still hear you, Shirley. Yeah. There you are.
Okay. Okay, that's because John all of a sudden is calling me and I told him I was doing an interview. But anyway, when you listen to this CD, a lot of people are going to buy this CD, even if they don't like the way I sound. They're going to buy it because when they look at the title of these songs, blues people going to say, this ain't no blues song. Then people that never heard me do other than blues going to say, let me check it out and see how she's singing this song. Then people that know these songs are going to try to figure out what I'm doing singing these songs. So it's a whole big change going to happen because of the title of the song, because it's Shirley King singing the song, and because of the fabulous guitar players that's on the song.
Well, you know what? I listened to a number of the cuts from the album, and you know what? Shirley King is pretty good, so they're going to enjoy that music too. And it's a great album.
Thank you. I love it. I'm loving the people that's reviewing this CD, and they saying that to me because I had a lot of doubts. I'm gonna be honest with you. I didn't think I did the best I could have did, but with the time that I had to do it, and with the familiarity of the music, I did what my dad told me to do. Just do it the best you can, and leave it up to the master. And that's what I did. So when I hear, people saying they like certain songs because I put my style on it because of this or that, I'm just loving that. I received that in the name because I really wanted this to be good. I wanted, just in case I don't get a chance to do it anymore, I wanted it to be good. I really did.
Excellent. Shirley, thank you very much. Good luck and go back to your shopping.
Okay. All right. God bless.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Shirley. All right, Frank and producer Ryan here.
Hey, Ryan. So interesting. I had spoken with Shirley before. A couple of things that she did mention. She's really an interesting character. She's got to be fun to be around. I would think. A couple of things that she had mentioned, and she didn't quite say that although you could get it from it. B.B. King had 15 children from 15 different different mothers, I guess was the best way to put it. She when she described the blues at one point, she says the blues is something you live with, you live in, and you live by. And it's kind of an interesting way. And she said about her dad that she talked about all the horns and the way he approached blues. And she said about BB King that BB King put class to the blues, and I think that's true. But she's got a great legacy, and it is. I've listened to some of it. It's a great album. She sings that last very well. Not quite Etta James, but she sings it very well. Some great people on there: Joe Louis Walker, Duke Robillard, and a bunch of others. And we know all their talents. So if you get a chance, listen to it. Maybe even purchase the album.
Yeah, and you can buy it on CD or album, and the website is streaming right there at the bottom. And also you can just search for Blues for a King at your favorite music store, record store, wherever you listen to music. I'm sure you can find it. Give it a listen, and support some musicians during this tough time, because they're not making any money doing live performances. So buy their music, Shirley's as well as any of your other favorite musicians.
Sure. And tomorrow, if all goes well, and if the planets are lined up correctly, Joe Louis Walker is going to join us. Joe Louis Walker is he's in the Blues Hall of Fame. 4 times he's won huge awards in blues music. About 24 albums out. His music is incredible. I think one of the best blues performers I've heard, and he's got great reviews all around. But great to talk to Shirley King and have that opportunity and learn a little bit more about BB King.
That's it. And it was great to be your producer today here on our
What's Up. Thank you, Ryan.
And we will do it again tomorrow. That's going to do it for us here on What's Up Noop. And we'll be back here tomorrow bringing you videos. And if you have somebody that you'd like us to interview, email me, Ryan@whatsupnoop.com.